Hello, I'm Marie Skilling, the author of The Adventures of Benjamin Frank. Welcome to the first step-by-step video from marieskilling.com. There are lots of things to think about when putting a book together, and this video is about how to make a book cover. This is your free step-by-step guide to help you design a book cover just like The Adventures of Benjamin Frank. I hope you like what you find in this presentation. Head to marieskilling.com for tips on writing your own story. Good luck, Marie. First things first. How big is your cover? The Adventures of Benjamin Frank is 150 pages long, and it fits inside the dimensions of the cover you can see. But you're going to have to change these measurements to suit your book. The height of this book is 20.3 centimetres. When you measure the width of your piece of paper to design your cover, you have to include 3 elements: the width of the front cover, the width of the spine, and the width of the back cover. When you put them all together, you have the width of your whole piece of paper. For The Adventures of Benjamin Frank, the width was 27.5 centimetres. If you fold your piece of paper along the dotted lines, then you'll have the shape of your whole book. Now for the fun part, drawing the characters. I want to start with my most colourful character, and her name is Sally. She's Benjamin's best friend. Sally was the first character I drew because I thought about her features a lot when describing her in The Adventures of Benjamin Frank. There are different stages to think about when you put your characters together. It took me a while to put both Sally and Benjamin together on paper. I started by drawing a couple of pencil versions of Sally before I got to the one that I was happy with. When I found the right pencil drawing, I used felt pens to colour over the lines, and this really made her come to life. Look at the difference between the pencil drawing and the colour pencil drawing. I chose purple and green to match the colours I'd already used to describe Sally in The Adventures of Benjamin Frank. And that's a really important point. You must use the colours, the shapes and the styles to draw your characters, but match what you've said about them in the story you've written. Otherwise, it won't make sense. Now, it can be difficult to get your characters right the first time, which was exactly my experience. I wasn't quite happy with the shape of Sally's wings. I started with an A5 sketch pad. So when I wanted to make some changes, I pulled that piece of paper out of my sketch pad and stuck it to my window using blue tack. I then found another piece of paper, held it on top, and traced the body of Sally, leaving out the wings because I didn't want them anymore. But when I stood back and looked at the drawing, something still wasn't right. Now, I've given you a good tip here. By sticking your piece of paper to the window and holding your fresh paper on top, the light through the window helps you see the lines in the original piece of paper better, and that makes it so much easier for tracing. And of course, paper is an important part to think about. Like I mentioned, I started with an A5 sketch pad. Now the problem with this is it didn't give me enough room. So I decided to trace the drawing again using A4 paper because it would give my hand more space to draw. And with more space, I got the wings right. I drew them more pointed than before, and I thought that suited the tail and made Sally more balanced. So I was much happier with the look of Sally. But the next stage for me was to scan the drawing so that I could bring the image into my computer. But when you use pencil, it doesn't show up properly with a scanner. So I went over Sally's outline with a dark felt pen. Now this had already taken a lot of steps for me. So another tip I have for you is to spend time getting your drawing right. It makes things much easier later on. And if you can't get the whole drawing right, sometimes it's easier to draw the different parts on separate bits of paper, cut them out and stick them all together at the end. It's entirely up to you. Now for the colourful part. Once I was happy with a nice line drawing of Sally, it was time for me to add some colour. I used a computer program to fill Sally with colour, but you can use pens, crayons, paints, pastels, whatever you prefer to use. With Sally, once I'd filled her with colour, I looked at her tail and thought, that doesn't look quite right. So with my computer, I removed it. The problem with that is Sally now looked like she might fall from the sky, and we couldn't have that. So for the finishing touches, I redrew Sally's tail, and like I mentioned before, I did it in lots of different pieces. You can see 6 pieces to the bottom of her tail. I drew each of them separately and brought them all together at the end. So now that I was happy with her final look, all I needed to do was make sure I was happy with the position, so that she sat nicely over Benjamin's shoulder on the front cover. But what about Benjamin? Well, Benjamin was harder to draw because the story is written from his viewpoint and very little is said about what he looks like. But my drawing process was still the same. I started with pencil, then I traced, I thought about my paper, the colours I wanted to use, and the finishing touches. So drawing Benjamin, as with Sally, I started with a rough sketch using pencil on paper. And on the left there, you have my original drawing, but his face looked too old for the age that he is. So I decided to draw the head separately because I was struggling to do it all together. I drew a much younger, rounder looking face, and then I held it over the body of the original drawing, found another piece of paper and traced over the 2 pieces together. That gave me the picture on the right, and I was much happier with that. To finish Benjamin, I didn't need to worry about changing my paper because I'd learnt my lesson from drawing Sally. This time I started with A4 paper to give myself lots of room. And as before, because I wanted to scan it into my computer, I went over the pencil drawing with a dark felt pen. I scanned it into my computer, and then I filled Benjamin's drawing with colour and put the features of his face. I was happier with him because I got my process right earlier. And for the finishing touches, all I had to do then was to complete the cover. Now, there was a lot of design that went into the background of the cover and the words that I used, but that's for another time. For now, keep your background simple and concentrate on drawing your characters, deciding your title, and putting your name on front. They're all the main things you have to have on a cover. If you don't know how to do all of this on a computer, because it can be quite tricky, make your cover using paper. Don't forget, start by getting your paper size right. And then you can either draw it all on that one piece of paper, or you can draw your characters separately, cut them out and stick them onto your paper. However you want to do it is the best way to go. I hope you enjoy making your book cover, but don't forget to visit my website and ask questions, or find out how to write your own story by going to the Young Writers page on marieskilling.com. I hope you have lots of fun. Until the next time, goodbye from Marie.